Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're going to take a look at the Regiment of Renown, Pack 1. These are 7 new units added in yesterday's patch, patch 1.2 for Warhammer 3, and we're going to just take a comparison look at all 7 of these units, starting with Grand Cathay's the Dune Dragons, which is a specialized version of the Celestial Dragon Guard, which we also have here. Now, the thing to note is that in campaign, these are specialized units you can recruit. You can only recruit one of them. They're available via special recruitment once you reach a certain rank with your lord, and they basically become instant recruitment in your armies, which is a very nice attribute by itself. Not only that, they always come at max rank, so they will be rank 9. Now this is important to note and why we summon 2 different groups here, because if we look at the base variant right here, with no rank up, rank 0, and compare it to this, you can see the stat boost, right? 10 points of leadership, 9 points of melee attack, 10 points of melee defense. Well, in reality, the stat change is just a reflection of the rank up. So the unit itself is exactly the same stat as the base version. The increase of the stat comes only from the rank. As you can see, a 9 rank or max rank Celestial Dragon Guard has the exact same stat lines as the Dune Dragons. So the specialty here, especially for multiplayer players, is that the cost. A regular Celestial Dragon Guard costs 1050 in custom battles, and the Dune Dragon costs 1350. So there's a 300 premium cost to it. But if you want to level up a rank 0 Celestial Dragon Guard to rank 9, you need to pay about 400 to do so. It's slightly less than 400, but it's more than the 300 here. So these will cost like 1430 in multiplayer, while these cost 1350. So you're getting an 80 cost discount by using a Dune Dragon, and you're getting the stat difference you see with just the rank up. But aside from just getting rank up stats, each of these Regiment of Renown will have some sort of specialized ability, or in this case, will have magical attack, which is not available for the regular Celestial Dragon. And the importance of that is that we bypass any sort of physical resistance that the enemy might have. So that will help us. Aside from that, we have new abilities. There are 3 in particular. We have Encourage, which gives additional leadership to nearby units. There is Immune to Psychology, which protects us from fear and terror. And finally, 20% spell resistance. These are things that the regular Celestial Dragon Guard do not have. Now, are these things worth it or makes this unit particularly powerful? In my opinion, not really. I feel like the Dune Dragons is probably the weakest Regiment of Renown introduced in yesterday's patch. And the reason is, Encourage is not very useful for Grand Cathay. Grand Cathay is a faction with the proper harmony boost that have really high leadership, and Warhammer as a game is one where leadership drops very slowly. So units typically don't rout, or even if they do, they bounce back quite easily. For Grand Cathay, we have very high leadership, and this is just the base value without Yin-Yang bonus, which can go up by another 12 points, which can be amplified. We have different lords, and the thing is, the lords will also have Encourage, and Encourage do not stack. So whomever is the larger bonus will be applied. So if you fight near your lord, the Encourage ability basically is non-existent. As for Immune to Psychology, this is pretty nice, but it also comes back to the fact that we already have insanely high leadership as a unit that can be boosted furthermore with mechanics such as the Harmony mechanic. So not losing a few points to fear and terror, not a huge deal. The spell resistance is nice, as well as the magical attack. Those are the 2 main selling points of this unit. As for costs, especially in multiplayer as we mentioned, it's worth it if you're looking for a high-end Celestial Dragon Guard, because it is actually cheaper than getting your own 9 rank Celestial Dragon Guard. So that pretty much sums up for the unit. As for the looks, It's the same look with different colors. We have more of a green hue on the shield as well as the weaponry. And as for armors, it looks quite similar. They have an extra border around this piece right here that's green and red versus just the yellow here, and the tassel on the helmet is also red. So more of a red and green hue versus a red and yellow hue difference. And that's pretty much the difference here. Then moving on, we have the Hellforged Host, which is a Regiment of Renown version of the Exalted Bloodletters for Khorne. And as we can see here, they look slightly different, given that they are sort of the armored variety. You can see the paddings on the gauntlet and the legs, and they are a darker shade of crimson or red. In terms of stats, we once again brought a regular version right here. And you can see the difference is 20 points of armor, 10 points of leadership, 10 points of melee attack, 9 points of melee defense. Leadership, melee defense, and melee attack level up as the rank goes up. So if you compare them to a rank 9 variant, the only stat difference is actually armor. So there is actually a stat difference between these units. Aside from that, there's also ability differences. Now before we cover that, let's talk cost. They cost 300 more than the base unit in multiplayer. And they need 423 to be upgraded 9 times to rank 9. So you're actually saving about 123 by recruiting this, then getting a ranked up version of the regular Exalted Bloodletters of Khorne. So it comes at a discount, which is nice. In addition to that, they have very different abilities. So the regular ones have something called Hellblade. Once the unit have acquired more than 80 kills, they effectively get a 20% boost to damage, which is nice. More blood for the blood god. Here we have something called the Hungering Blade. This is the only difference here, and it's going to give us sort of a similar effect of 20% damage, but also 5 points of melee attack on top of that, and once we get 40 kills. So not only are we technically more durable because we have armor, 20 point extra, we can acquire our 20% boost to damage a lot quicker. And once we do get it, we also will get 5 points more melee attack, which is essentially 5% more hit rate against all enemies, taking account of their various melee defense. But if you have 5 more, it's just basically 5% more of whatever you had before. So these are very nice boosts. I don't think the mass has any difference. 150, the armor is not making any difference here. So same health, same math, same number unit, 20 points extra armor, and a much easier to acquired passive ability here, the Hungering Blade, that will give you additional 5 points of melee attack as well. These are a very decent Regiment of Renown compared to what we've seen so far with Grand Cathay, but they're definitely not the strongest or the most unique. So we'll move on from this. And moving on to Kislev, we have the Dazh Hearth-Blade, which is a special variant of the Tsar Guard, which is not a particularly strong unit in my opinion from my limited exposure to Kislev. But if we take a look at these units here, once again, rank 9, which is why we brought both variants here. If we compare them to the base, we see the difference only in leadership, melee attack, and melee defense. So that means if we compare them to the rank 9 variant, same stats. So the difference is not on stats, but on abilities. And if we compare cost, the regular Tsar Guard with Great Weapon, 1100. Ranking it up will cost us, I think, 1490 something. So about 390 extra, close to 400. And these cost only 300 extra. So once again, we're getting close to a 100 saving in custom battles. Not only that, they will also gain flaming attack on their melee attack. So this means we can reduce the enemy regeneration, as well as, if they're vulnerable to fire, extra damage. Then in terms of abilities, we have one extra ability here, Dazh Son of Winter Sunlight, which is a one-use ability that has a range effect of 35 meter around this unit, I assume, and it will reduce all vigor. So basically, you're gonna become unfatigued if you're fatigued, which is actually quite good because fatigue reduces your stat, mainly your melee attack, melee defense, and it helps recover it. You can't really see the reduction in game, but it does hurt the unit quite a bit. So having something to regenerate the vigor for your units is definitely helpful, especially given that this is a ranged effect. So you can actually use it in an area for multiple units. That's nice to have. Compared to the others, you see the additional 20% fire resistance, just something to add flavor, I guess, because they are related to sort of the god of fire and hearth for Kislev's religion. Urson's not the only god. But aside from that, it's the same exact unit. In terms of looks, we just have a red hue, a brighter red hue actually. The leg is actually the same. The padding, it was blue here, as well as the helmet. It's all red now. And you can see the blade has this kind of red glowing effect that I guess is trying to mimic fire. Looks a bit demonic, but we'll say that's fire. And the cape on the back is also white with some red feathers compared to the blue with the dark brown or grayed out, I guess I call it black with blue on the back. So that's going to be for Kislev. In terms of strength, I think it's pretty good. I think it falls probably between what we've seen so far. I still think Grand Cathay has the worst one. This is probably going to slot in between that and then the Hellforged host for Khorne. Then moving on to Nurgle, we have the Festering Stooges, which is the radioactive version of the Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle, which just looks sick. We're sick, plus we are radioactive and purple on our limbs. But this is probably the best Regiment of Renown added in this pact, and the reason is really abilities. So if we just look at the stats, we brought the regular version here to compare. You see the difference is the regular leadership, melee attack, melee defense, 12 points of difference for missile strength, but if we compare it to the ranked up version, it's only 3-point difference. So I think that really comes down to the breakdown. 9 damage, 21 split for base and armor piercing, but reload time is 5.6, and I believe reload time is what gets improved when you do get ranked up. And if we look at this unit, 9, 21, 7.2. A rank 9 variant of this has 5.9 seconds. So somehow these got additional 0.3 reload time compared to the regular upgraded Exalted Plague Bearers Nurgle. In terms of costs, these cost $350 extra compared to the regular ones. I think these are $1,100 in multiplayer. These are $1,450. And these upgraded ones are $1,496. So you're getting about a 46 discount for going for the Festering Stooges, but that's not what makes them great. So if we just look at, the stat cards, aside from that attack speed bonus, you can see both have magic attack on their ammo for range, as well as their melee attack. Both have the poison effect, so no differences there. It has to come to actual abilities. And if we compare the two, you'll notice first, the Cloud of Flies, which is a pretty standard ability for most Nurgle unit, which gives additional melee defense when you're in melee, has been changed to the Gloom of Flies, which not only increases melee defense, but also causes terror for the same, requirements of being in melee. So we're getting the extra cause terror on this unit. And then we're also getting this Festering Gate, which provides us with a passive regeneration of 0.1% per second, enabled if in melee. So we have to be fighting to use this regeneration. It will heal the injured unit first, but should one of the entities of these units die, they can actually be resurrected. So usually how healing works in Warhammer is we have 100 of these guys, each of them have essentially 132 health. If that single entity, say this poor guy, took that damage and died, and everyone else took maybe like 1 or 2 damage, and you heal the unit, only the ones that are still on the field can be healed. In this case, he will actually be regenerated to continue to fight. So if we have some easy target to hit, because we have to be in melee to activate this ability, say it's an enemy range unit or a very weak unit that can't return very much damage, or perhaps, 0.1% here, it's not a lot. 1% of this is 132, 0.1 is only like 13.2 per second. But if they can't really outdamage us and we're able to maintain melee, we can heal back to full with this unit, even the dead ones. That's what makes this unit so unique and I think so powerful. The rest of it is the same. We basically get regeneration, which the regular ones don't have by default. We get the ability to regenerate dead units, and we get cause terror in addition to the regular melee defense plus 9. Everything else is the same. We also attack slightly faster with our limited ammo, but that's about it. Then moving on to the Ogre Kingdoms, we have a special variant of the Man-Eaters with the Ogre pistol called Powder Guts. In terms of looks, once again, red seems to be the color. So we have a red feather in the cap, we have a red vest rather than the brown that we have on the regular version of this unit. In terms of stat differences, let's compare it first to the regular ones, which we can see across the board. It's leadership, melee attack, melee defense, which we know why. Range, that's an interesting one. And missile strength, which comes mainly from reload speed. But if we look at it compared to rank 9, there's still quite a difference for the range and the missile strength. And the reason is, the specialty of this unit comes mainly in the form of its range capabilities. It has 20 extra range, which is great, especially for a unit that can hit and run. All these units have fire whilst moving. Not only that, it has extra reload. So by default, the damage 3868 is the same with them. But the reload time, even against another rank 9 unit, 8.1 seconds, we have 7.7. And then compare that to the base unit, which doesn't get any rank up. The reload is 9.9. So about a 20% improvement, or actually more than that, because we got to take the additional value there. Probably 28% improvement compared to the regular Man-Eaters. And then when the rank up is even factored in, we're still getting close to 20% improvement, I think, compared to the ranked up variant, plus the 20 range. So the range attribute is one of the key strengths of these units, but in addition to that, there are also ability differences. So if we just take a quick comparison, you might notice that what is new is called Adaptive Tactics. It's the last one on the list, and I really like this ability. It's a comeback mechanic. If this unit is losing in melee combat, it will get 24 points of melee defense and 24 points of melee attack while losing in melee combat. So as you beat down this sort of run around range unit, even though they are ogres are all very good in melee as well, and you pin them down and you fight them, they essentially will get a burst of 24% additional hit chance against you and 24% evasion against your unit as they are losing that combat. Obviously, when they start winning, this goes away. So it's sort of just a entirely combat mechanic focus. But looking at the stats, we're already 50-52. It's already super high. If we are losing, I guess by health terms, we'll have 74 and 76 as our melee attack, melee defense stat. And I think that's actually really, really good. So I would rate this unit pretty high. Probably not as high as the Nurgle unit, just because what the Nurgle unit is designed to do as a tanky unit, the Exalted Plaguebearer with ability to heal back dead entities. I think that's just really, really good. But moving on. And before we jump into these bringers of Beguilement for Slaanesh, I did forget to mention the cost difference for the Ogre units. It's a slight premium, once again, very similar to the other unit compared to the base one, but there's a small, kind of discount compared to ranking it up yourself to rank 9. It's not a very big discount, unlike the unit here, which is really interesting because the bringers of Beguilement here, compared to the base rank 0 variant, there's only a 200 cost difference. It's the smallest difference compared to all the Regiment of Renown for custom battle. But if you want to rank up the Exalted Demonetta of Slaanesh to rank 9, it still costs you close to 400. So the discount here between these two units is close to, 240 something, which is quite large. So you're getting really good value, especially considering that, of course, there's no stat difference, but there are quite a bit of attribute differences. First, on our melee attack, we have something called Charmed. which once means we hit the enemy, that enemy unit will lose 8 points of melee attack. For our special Bringer of Beguilement, we have something called Rampage, which means we hit them, they don't lose 8-point melee attack, but they're forced to fight you in melee. And you might think, why is that good? Well, imagine you run this really fast-moving, flanking infantry unit into the enemy range in the flank, and they have to give up their range attacks and stay there and fight you in melee. That's very good. So that's a key change in terms of the stats that we can see on the surface. In terms of abilities, if you compare the two, you will notice that there is the addition of Perfect Vigor, which means we will never get tired. As a fast flanking unit, that is very good. As we mentioned, fatigue does reduce your stats, so not losing that is great. And in addition to that, I think the rest are the same. So in essence, we have the same stat as a rank 9 unit, but we are extremely discounted compared to the other Regiment of Renown, especially for multiplayer battle. In terms of looks, we are extra pink, and we have Rampage causing effect on our attack, and Perfect Vigor to maintain our stats and our speed as we try to pull off different flanks. And that's going to do it for Slaanesh. Then finally, wrapping up our Regiment of Renown Pack 1, we have Tzeentch's unit, the Blazing Squealers, which is Exalted Pink Horror, and they have a slightly more blue hue compared to the regular one. And we'll start with their stat differences compared to the regular one. You can see the difference is basically in the rank up stats: leadership, melee attack, melee defense, missile strength because of reload speed. And if we compare them to a rank 9, there's a small premium, which we've seen earlier on the Nurgle unit, and a much bigger premium on the Ogre unit. Those are our range unit. It seems like the Regiment of Renown have a improved version of the reload speed compared to even the same ranked base unit, which is hard to explain, but it's fine. But that's not what makes them really good. So obviously, if you're just looking at the attributes, what's clear is that we have Warp Fire, which means we increase the enemy weakness to fire damage by 10% and we reduce their armor by 10%. And both of this is very helpful because both our regular range and melee attack are flaming attack. And in terms of missile strength, most of our damage is base, so that 10-point reduction in armor is going to help a little bit in terms of improving our damage output, not just for ourselves, but also our nearby other Pink Horror range units who are also going to be firing, flaming attacks at the same enemy that you're hitting. So you're weakening them with your missile attack, which was not available on the regular version. In addition to that, we also have ability added in. So you can see the passive are all the same. There's physical resistance for demon units, all the same. But we have a new active ability. It has one use only. And when you do use this, Conduit of Infinity, all other range units within 55 meters of you get their ammo replenished. That's really, really good. I guess for campaign, especially. I think for multiplayer, you're not going to have the chance to unload all your ammo, reload, and then unload again on another human opponent. If you can, you probably already won the battle already, so you don't need this. But in campaign, especially in offensive sieges where the enemy might not come out and charge at you, or even in regular open field battles or defensive sieges, having another set of ammo on your units definitely very valuable, especially since Pink Horrors are actually very good units as a hybrid range and melee unit. So being able to regenerate their ammo and other units' ammo, it's not just Pink Horrors. Whatever range unit you have, you can replenish them as long as they stick close to your Blazing Squealers, and they also have the ability to weaken the enemy for your fire attack and base damage on your range, or even your melee. You fire a few into a unit, in melee combat with one of your other units, you can weaken their armor regardless. So in terms of how I would rank all these units, I feel like depending on if you're more of a campaign or a multiplayer player, they're going to be a little bit different. I'm mainly a campaign player, so in my mind, I actually think these Blazing Squealers are probably the best unit off the batch because their ability to essentially double your ammo, especially in offensive sieges, that could be very valuable. And in terms of the other ones, I think Nurgle's unit are going to be pulling number 2, being able to regenerate and replenish on the battlefield as you're in combat, as a unit that's supposed to be holding down area for you, being hard to kill, really plays in together. Causing terror also helps. And then behind that, probably the Slaanesh unit, mainly because Rampage is pretty good. It does take some microing, but it does fit Slaanesh's playstyle because you do want to flank from all sorts of angles, and being able to lock down the unit that you are flanking definitely helps. Even if it's like a tough enemy that you want to buy time, having it, you know, available to Rampage, not just one unit. You can have it run around Rampage a bunch of units. Rampage lasts a little bit, and have Perfect Vigor does make it pretty valuable. Then after that, I think it has to go to the Ogre units, which I probably would put 4th. Just the combat mechanic is nice, but that only activates when you're losing. So you don't often want that, but it's nice to have. Being able to reload faster, shoot a little bit faster, and shoot at a longer range all help the unit out a little bit. Then finally, I think Kislev's unit, no, I think it's going to be Khorne's unit 5th, because you can activate the bonuses after 40 kills. It's a tough call. I think it's nice. I think in the middle of the pack, it's kind of hard to argue. I'm pretty sure the top 2 are Tzeentch and Nurgle, and then the bottom 2 are definitely Kislev and then Grand Cathay. I think the Dune Dragon's by far the worst one of the group. It's nice to, you know, instantly summon a frontline unit that's premium for campaign purposes, but the stat and the ability comparison, you know, being able to just have encourage and, you know, immune to psychology as your bonus, well, 20% spell resistance. It's good, but it just doesn't, you know, hit home with some of these unique ones like reloading ammo. But we're going to get more Regiment of Renown packs in the future. And what they're doing is they're going to give 1 unit to each of the core factions, just like this one. So when we do get our second pack, which I think comes with the next DLC launch, we'll get another group of units to check out. And then finally, I think at the end of the year, they're going to do a 3rd pack even. So expect to see more of these, you know, recolored units. You know, it's not a lot of graphic work, but it does add a bit more flavor to your campaign just by having one of these specialized units to kind of customize one of your armies. Particular, like say this army would be built, you know, to utilize range and so forth. So let me know in the comment below. How do you feel about this Regiment of Renown pack? Which ones are your favorites and which one you're looking to try out in your next campaign? And I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.